Welcome to PNC Park in Pittsburgh. The rain has fallen, but Fox Sports Ohio is here to bring you Cincinnati Reds baseball. It's the Reds against the Buccos, the final of a 3-game set, the final game for the Reds in the regular season here in Pittsburgh. Hi, hello, and welcome to PNC Park, everyone, along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch and Jim Day. I'm George Grant. Well, you lose 2 in a row, so who are you going to call? It's Johnny Cueto, Chris.
You always seem to call Johnny, don't you? Every time the Reds lose, it seems like Johnny Cueto is the guy that is asked to stop that little losing streak. They've got 2 in a row, the losses right here in Pittsburgh, but that's good news for Johnny Cueto and the Reds, because the way he's handled the Pittsburgh Pirates in the past, it gives you some gleam of opportunity here and being optimistic. You see that in his last 4 starts against the Pirates this year, 3-0, 1.8 earned run average, very typical of Johnny Cueto, using all of his pitches, mixing them in, using that changeup to his advantage, and having, of course, a good defense behind him.
And overall in his career, 9-2 here at PNC Park. Well, Liriano on the other side had a great year last year, but he stumbled this year, Chris.
Well, 16 wins last year. He's 3-10 this year now. Not really so bad as numbers indicate here in the month of August. He's gotten very little run support overall. He's pitched pretty well. That earned run average is ballooned by one very bad game he had against the Atlanta Braves. But this guy always seems to pitch a good game against the Reds. He'll equally pitch as many fastballs, sliders, and changeups in there. And he's got great control of his off-speed stuff. And he's always a big challenge for this Reds team.
A couple hours ago, we didn't think we'd be starting this game on time, but they're ready to get it rolling in between the raindrops here at PNC Park. It's the Reds against the Buccos, trying to avoid a sweep, trying to hang in there in the Central and the wild card. Coming up next, Brian Price in the starting lineup, and Jim Day will join us too. Being brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? Hey, it's Skyline time. The lights aren't on now, but they will be shortly. The rain has been coming down pretty hard through most of the early morning hours. Now it's just a bit of a drizzle at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. The Reds scheduled to play today, then fly on to Baltimore for a series that begins Tuesday. They have tomorrow off. The Pirates, though, are scheduled to play a day game in St. Louis tomorrow. Now they're going to do everything they can to get this one in. We may wait a while in between the raindrops, but we're hopefully going to get this one started on time. And let's check Brian Price's starting lineup for the Cincinnati Reds today. Billy Hamilton will be in the leadoff spot. Kris Negron will move up to the number 2 spot and play third today. That means Frazier will go to first. Brandon Phillips will play second and hit third. Brian Pena back behind the plate. Ryan Ludwig will get a start in left. Chris Heisey, career against Liriano, 444, and you know his home run power. Ramon Santiago will be the shortstop, and Johnny Be Good, Johnny Cueto, will pitch and bat in the number 9 position. On the mound for the Buccos, Francisco Liriano. When he has been good, he's been very, very good, Chris. This year has not been one of his best, though.
Well, that's right. You're right about that, George. He was 16-8 last year for this Pirates team, and he did that in only 26 starts, pitching only 161 innings. So he got the most out of his starts last year. This year he's also missed some because he was been on the disabled list with an oblique strain. That was a few starts ago, but really since the All-Star break, if you start dissecting the numbers on Liriano, you see that he's pitched quite well, except maybe only once, and that was against the Atlanta Braves, and that'll blow up the earned run average. He's a guy that is essentially a 3-pitch pitcher. Fastball, a 2-seamer, and a changeup and a slider, and boy, does he ever like those off-speed pitches a lot. If you're a right-hander or a left-hander, you're going to see both of those in every at-bat you're up there.
So Liriano ready to go to work, and here's Billy Hamilton. You know, when you talk about the Pirates, they had that 7-game losing streak in the month of August, just like the Reds had a 7-game losing streak after the All-Star break. And one of the things that's turned things around for Pittsburgh has been their starting pitching. At one point, they were 14th in the league in starting pitching. Going into the game today, they are 10th in the league. They've dropped their earned run average from over 4 to 3.8. The Reds are 3rd in starting pitching, but starting pitching has been one of the differences for them of late.
Well, you're right. I mean, if you expect to get into the postseason, you're going to need to have your starters carry you through the month of September, because the bullpen is already somewhat worn out. Liriano, they need him to have a good solid month here.
Fouled off by Billy. No balls and 2 strikes. And you know Hamilton's story. leading contender for Rookie of the Year. He's had a brilliant year defensively. Stolen base wise, he's sitting at 53. He has been a revelation coming up from AAA and taking over the leadoff spot. When he gets going, the Reds get going. That's a simple way to put it. Number 6 steps in overall at 268. 6 homers and 46 knocked in. Caught in the air by Stewart, who's the catcher, and they'll get Hamilton down at first. Had a swing and a miss from Billy. There's one away, and Liriano gets the strikeout. I'll check your forward defensive alignment for the Buccos. The Reds best in the league defensively. The Pirates worst in the league defensively with 96 miscues. Marte, McCutchen, great speed in left and center. Lambo in for his bat and right. Josh Harrison has been brilliant in this series and brilliant since the All-Star break. Mercer and Walker, your double play combo. Ike Davis at first, and Chris Stewart will get the catching job behind the plate for Liriano. Here's Francisco trying to win his 4th. In the number 2 spot today is Christopher Negron.
You say in the number 2 spot today, George, like it changes every day.
Hey, for a team that has had their projected starting lineup out there only 12 times this year, it has been a work in progress every day, Chris.
Yeah, and even with that, there are guys in the lineup right now that are so banged up they're only playing because they have to play, knowing that there's really nobody else out there to replace them. Although then you have somebody like Christopher Negron, who's trying to take the opportunity with some extended playing time to show the Reds front office what he can do.
Negron,
I like what I've seen.
I think everybody in the Reds clubhouse does too. What a way to start for Liriano, striking out the first 2. That's 2 punch outs, 2 down, and here comes Brandon Phillips. And you mentioned this pitch, Chris. When he is right, this pitch is lethal.
Well, that's a slider, and it comes out of the same arm slot as that fastball, which is part of the key. The other part of it is that he actually throws more strikes and has better command with his slider than he does his fastball or his changeup. And that's odd to see that, because normally a pitcher throws his fastball with the best command, and then the secondary pitches begin to drop off after that. Not so with Liriano.
Here's Brandon at 261, 7 homers, 44 knocked in. And you talked about playing banged up, and boy, it's true of the Red second baseman. Coming off the disabled list after the torn ligament in his thumb. Both hands are sore, back is sore, legs are sore. He's hitting only 174 since coming off the DL in the month of August. But he's still in there.
I think he knew that was going to happen.
Yep.
I mean, he was telling me when he first came back and was activated in that series against the Cardinals that because he feels pain in it every day. He knows that it's not ready yet. He wouldn't be ready until next year anyway. And he's really not afraid of re-injuring it because the team needs me and I'm going to go out there and play. Fortunately, he has not re-injured it, and hopefully he'll be 100% when he comes around in 2015.
No balls, 2 strikes to Phillips. That's down. You know, that breaking ball you talk about. I mean, in our years in baseball, Chris, there was Steve Carlton, the lefty, who had that lethal slider down and into righties. Randy Johnson, the same thing. Al Leiter used to have the same thing. And Liriano's one of those lefties. When he gets his slider going to righties, that down and in pitch is just something else.
Looks like a fastball disappears on you.
Liriano overall is 0-5 with an ERA of over 4 against the Reds. That's in 7 career starts. That's in the regular season. This year 0-2 against Cincinnati. Check swing fouled off by Brandon. Now as this day unfolds, and again it's unattributed at this point, but we're trying to track down as much as we can. There was a tweet by Ken Rosenthal of Fox Sports that the Reds had involved in talks with the Milwaukee Brewers and that Jonathan Broxton had been traded to Milwaukee. We haven't gotten a confirmation on it, but we will talk about that as the day progresses. Here in the National League, bringing the Pirates after 20 years of under 500 and non-playoff baseball to the postseason. Here's his starting lineup, brought to you by Meyer. It has Josh Harrison, the Cincinnati product, who's been brilliant for this club, over at third and leading off. Lambeau bats number 2. Andrew McCutchen, last year's MVP, hits third. Neil Walker, whose 3-run home run yesterday was the difference in the game. Ike Davis hits 5th. Starling Marte, who's been brilliant in August, hitting .337. Jordy Mercer, the shortstop, moves up to 7th. Chris Stewart, the catcher, 8th. And Liriano, the pitcher, bats 9th. And here's Johnny.
Johnny's been so good, looking for win number 16 on the year.
This one hit deep to left, towards the corner, over his Ludwig. It is gone. Now, what else can the little guy do? Josh Harrison had a 3-for-4 night in game 1 and 6 brilliant plays. He's become the darling of the Pirate fans, and on the first pitch he sees from Johnny Cueto, he delivers a game-leading home run, and he'll get a big welcome from McCutchen and the rest of the crew.
Well, you're right. What else can he do? George, I would stop calling him a little guy if I were you, because he's obviously developing a complex and taking it out on the Reds. Man, oh man, do they love Josh Harrison here in Pittsburgh.
Jay Hay, there's the chant. Listen to it. Home run number 13 for Harrison. It's his second leadoff home run for the Buccos this year, as he's taken over that leadoff spot. And boy, is he taken over the leadoff spot. He's had some success against Cueto. Coming in, he was 4 for 10, now 5 for 11, his first home run off Johnny. Now this one starts in a similar fashion to yesterday, when Alfredo Simon gave up a 3-run home run to Neil Walker, and that's all the Buccos got. It was enough to win the game 3-2.
And also kind of like Johnny Cueto's last start, if you remember, it was a rain day in Cincinnati when he pitched against the Chicago Cubs. And it was raining heavily when a ball slipped out of his hand and right down the middle to Anthony Rizzo, and he knocked it out of the ballpark for a home run.
Great backhand by Phillips, and the flip, they'll get the out at first. 93 games plus without an error for Brandon the Gold Glover at second base, working on game number 94 straight with plays like that.
Boy, he makes this play look almost easy, and that is incredibly hard. How quickly he pops up and just kind of gets it over to Frazier at first base. A hard shot, backhanded diving. So ask yourself what you miss when you don't have Brandon Phillips around.
Not gold, but platinum at second base. Here's McCutchen, 305-20, homer 71, knocked in. Big swing and a pop up to the right side. Frazier falling. 2 away.
Well, 29th start for Johnny Cueto, and he's got 4 complete games. That, of course, is the tops in the National League. 199 innings, so he has been a workhorse again. Opponent batting average under 200. Every one of the peripheral numbers on Johnny Cueto is at the top or very near the top in the league.
Here's Neil Walker, only 7 for 38, 184, and a homer against Cueto. Walker's home run yesterday is 18th of the year. That's 1 away from the second base record for the Buccos, held by the great Bill Mazeroski. Overall, 18 homers, 59 knocked in for Walker. And as we alluded to in the top of the first, we'll continue to track what we've heard, Chris, but no confirmation from either side on the possibility of a deal that would send Jonathan Broxton to Milwaukee, as attributed to Ken Rosenthal. Kenny was here yesterday doing the Fox game, and he was here the last 2 days.
Yeah, we heard of it was today, George, on Twitter. Buster Olney also has it, also mentions that Broxton is owed about $1 million throughout the rest of this year and $9 million next year. So if there's some motivation for the Reds to move anybody at this point, it's probably to get some payroll off the books so they can better prepare for some arbitration cases next year.
And you wonder, Chris, there have been some rumors that maybe in the offseason the Reds might trade Aroldis Chapman. Not that the Reds have said this, but there have been rumors if you trade Broxton, very unlikely you would trade Chapman. That's a walk. Walker marches down to first, and here comes Ike Davis. Let's check your Ford defensive alignment for the best defensive team in the league. Only 60 errors for the Reds on the season. Ludwig in left, Hamilton in center, Chris Heisey will be over and right. Negron at third. Santiago gets the call at shortstop with Phillips at second and Frazier over at first. And Brian Pena behind the plate. Pena's thrown out 38% of those that have tried to run. This is a Pirate team that doesn't run as much as the Reds, but they will run and hit and run under Clint Hurdle. Here's Davis, 238, 10 homers, 44 knocked in.
Well, now, George, the official word from the Reds, and there's no big release yet, but they did tweet out on their official Twitter handle is that the Reds did send Brox into the Brewers, and they will get 2 players to be named later in return.
So the Brewers get somebody to help down the stretch run from the bullpen. And again, the deal comes before September 1st, so he would be eligible for the postseason with Milwaukee. And the other part of it, Chris, which is really at this time of year is a factor. There are no 2 general managers who have more respect for each other or are closer than Doug Melvin of Milwaukee and Walt Jocarty of the Reds. So there's always an ongoing conversation between those 2. That's a call, strike 3. A home run from Harrison. Buccos take the lead. Frazier due up, and we return. For Friday, September 5th through Sunday, September 7th. See your Redlegs battle the Mets at Great American Ballpark. Purchase 4 Reds tickets for only $48 and receive a $15 Hofbrauhaus voucher. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/4 for 48. Josh Harrison delivers a big bolt. Buccos lead at 1-0. Here's Todd Frazier to lead it off. Top of 2. Frazier, Pena, and Ludwig due up. Swing and a miss from Todd at 278, 23 homers, 70 knocked in. The Reds have struggled offensively since the All-Star break, and even more so in the month of August. Frazier is the leading Reds hitter in August at 284. No one else is over 260. That tells you where the Reds are offensively this month. Frazier's home run yesterday was his 23rd. It was a rocket shot to left center. You know, we talked about it early in this series, Chris. If you want to sneak a home run, it's down the line. That's what Josh Harrison did down the left field line, and same thing down the right field line. But you hit it to the big expanse of this park. It is very difficult to get around triples, and that's where Frazier hit one yesterday, and that's where Devin Mesoraco just missed one that would have tied the game in the 9th yesterday.
It's a good ballpark to work on your line drive swing.
Yeah. There's Brian Pena hitting 5th today. 265 homers, 25 knocked in. Wide to third. Harrison. Well, he's got the magic touch, doesn't he? Josh makes the play, 2 away.
Working on his range factor here. You know, in a conversation I had with him yesterday, I asked him, I said, do you have any special motivation or any special feel that you look across the diamond, it's your hometown team Reds over there? And in a very professional manner, he said, no, as a matter of fact, it's just another ball club. But you got to figure, you know, deep inside. I mean, having watched the Reds grow up, went to Princeton High School, went to the University of Cincinnati, and from there you do become a pro, but you still have some affinity, I'm sure, towards your hometown team.
Ludwig a rocket to center, but right at McCutchen. 1, 2, 3, go the Reds quickly. To the bottom of 2 we go. Here comes Marte. Strikeout of Ike Davis as we went to break at the end of the 1st inning. Number 200 for Johnny. What a year he's had.
Boy, you're not kidding about that, George. It just goes to show you when Johnny Cueto stays healthy. I mean, you make a short list of the best pitchers in baseball, he's got to be on it.
Now time for our IGS bringing the energy numbers. Johnny Cueto, 200 strikeouts this year. The 3rd Reds pitcher with 200 before September the 1st. That's pretty good company. Jim Maloney and Mario Soto.
Well, the strikeout rate this year has bounced up from about 7 every 9 innings to 9 every 9 innings.
That's a strike to Marte, who's in at 273, 9 homers, 44 knocked in.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to pitching than strikeouts, obviously, but those guys that really dissect the numbers, the sabermetricians, that strikeout number is a power number, and they use it a lot to indicate how valuable a pitcher is, how unhittable he is, how many times you swing and miss. And you do that an awful lot against Johnny, and not only on the fastball. He's become quite adept at getting that little changeup down and into right-handers, and then get a lot of strikeouts that way by swinging right over the top of it.
Last year, Homer Bailey came within 1 strikeout of the 200 mark. And, as a pitcher, Chris, that's a red badge of courage, isn't it, to get to 200? I know Homer was hoping for 200. He fell 1 short at 199. The last Reds pitcher with 200, as we talked about on Friday night. There's a bouncer behind the bag. Phillips, bare hand, not in time. With Marte's speed, a slim chance, even though it was a great play by Phillips, so an infield hit to start the second.
Man, I mean, even though he saved it first, the guy's fun to watch. I'm not talking about Marte either. I'm talking about Brandon Phillips. I mean, how many second basemen even get to that ball to try to make the play?
I'm sure he was surprised there was even a throw over there. So Marte's on, leadoff hitter on, and here's Jordy Mercer. The last Reds pitcher with 200 strikeouts was Edinson Volquez back in 2008. Aaron Orang had back-to-back 200 strikeout years in 2006 and 7. So in the last 10 years, only 3 Reds have had 200 plus strikeouts. They got Marte off the bag, but charging was Frazier, and Marte will get back. Your home plate umpire today is Jimmy Reynolds. Manny Gonzalez is your umpire down there at first. Fielding Culbreth at second, and Brian Knight, your third base umpire this afternoon at PNC Park.
Marte, if I remember right, is the first one to use one of those gloves that you see he has on his right hand right there. That protects the runner when he slides headfirst into a bag. Last year he had one that looked like it was an extender. And it gave him an extra, 4 or 5 inches out there reaching for the bag.
That's a loop to right, curving. It'll be a foul ball. That was trouble. A run certainly would have scored if it stayed fair. It just curved foul, and we'll try it again. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now, Chris, we talk a lot about the great year that Cueto's had and the strikeout ability. And when you go back through Reds history, you mentioned that it was Mario Soto and Jim Maloney, the two that had 200 strikeouts before September 1st. And you look at their records, they're just simply amazing during their careers. Mario during the 80s, Jim Maloney during the 60s. I mean, every year you'd count on 200 strikeouts from them, and they were power strikeouts. One ball, 1 strike. The other way, but foul. Marte stolen 25 and caught 8 times. McCutcheon 17 and Harrison 17 stolen bases for a club that ranks behind the Dodgers and the Reds in stolen bases in the league. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Oh, they got him nailed. Great job by Cueto. Slipping his Marte. They'll run him back. He's still staying alive. And now the tag applied finally. Good job by Marte on a sloppy track. They've been putting quick dry out there all day long, but he prolonged it longer than it should have been, and the Reds finally get the run.
I'm not really sure whether it's a good job by Marte or not, trying to force a stolen base on a guy that gives up very few stolen bases. He's got the best right-handed pickoff move in the league, and he's just trying to get a good jump off of Johnny right there, and thinks he's got something red and then gets picked off. I think that's a bad play all the way around. Now,
oh, yeah,
if you're
I'm
going
saying
against,
good job at trying to avoid the tag, but bad job, bad decision.
And on top of that, it's a muddy track.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's got every disadvantage you could possibly have working against him, and he still tries to force a stolen base. Thank you very much.
Amen. We'll take it. So the runner erased, 1 away, and now it's 2 balls, 2 strikes to Mercer. By the way, in case you missed it last night, after the Cubs beat the Cardinals in Game 1, St. Louis bounced back to take Game number 2 of that day-night doubleheader. Milwaukee lost again yesterday. This one hit to left. Looking up, Ludwig, guess what? That one's gone. Wow. Jordy Mercer gets his 8th homer of the year. And 2 long balls in 2 innings against Johnny Cueto. It's 2-0 Pittsburgh.
Little hanging breaking ball right there, and in this ballpark you wouldn't think that Jordy Mercer is good for all that many home runs, but he really waylaid into that one. Good news is it's a solo shot, and there was a pickoff right before that play happened.
Here's Chris Stewart hitting in the 8th spot, showing bunt, gets it down. Cueto up, throwing, got him. Clint Hurdle takes a look down at the bench, and he's going to wait for a word from the dugout to see if he'll challenge, and he's heading back down.
It's tough for him to get up and down those stairs. He doesn't want to do it any more than he has to. He's got sore hinges right now. Hurdle does. Good play by Cueto. Sets his feet and fires it over there about 95 to Frazier.
Hurdle will have hip replacement surgery this offseason. The year started with about 35% difficulty, and now it's about 85% for him, and the doctor said you need it now. He said not till the end of the year. So Hurdle will have hip replacement surgery when the season is over. And you're right, Chris, it's agonizing for him every step.
I think that was a great play by Chris Stewart. Here's your little shortstop hits a home run, and you're thinking, man, oh man, what? And before you kind of get back into the groove of things, Cueto's going to throw a first pitch in there for a strike. The infielder's playing way back there, and Negron wasn't thinking about a bunt, and he lays it down and nearly legs it out. That's a heads-up play.
In the air, picked by Santiago at short. Liriano's retired, but the Buccos put another marker on the board. Jordy Mercer's 8th homer. Cueto due up 3rd when we return. Recap of all the Ohio college football teams that were in action yesterday, plus the Bengals roster is finally set after the cut downs yesterday. See who made those final cuts. Get complete coverage of all of today's action involving Ohio sports on foxsportsohio.com. Brought to you by 1-800-SAVE-AUTO. Drive safe, spend less. Jordy Mercer's big swing, doesn't have many of them, but his 8th of the year has given the Buccos a 2-0 lead. Heisey, then Santiago, and then Cueto as we head to the top of the 3rd inning. Fastball down and in from Liriano, misses. Heisey gets the start. 223 overall with 5 homers, 15 knocked in. 3 of the 5 homers have been via the pinch hit route. In the air to center, but again almost right in his tracks is McCutchen. 1 away. And here comes the birthday boy. Ramon Santiago celebrates his birthday today with a start, and he'll hit in the 8th spot. A homer, 12 knocked in. You get to this stage of a year, Chris, and you're on the fringe of maybe hanging in there and contending. And if you're a player, you remember those years when you made it and you didn't make it. You know, for Ramon, he remembered being with the Tigers when they were 3 games out with 8 to go, and they wound up making the postseason and winning the World Series. Skip Schumacher remembered, and we were there when the Reds played the Cardinals in their World Series year. They were 8 games out the first week of September when we left town, and they wound up making the postseason and won the World Series. So you never know. Strange things happen in the month of September. And again, to recap for those of you just joining us, Ken Rosenthal tweeted just prior to the game today that the Reds had made a trade with the Milwaukee Brewers, sending Jonathan Broxton to Milwaukee, and that's been confirmed by the Reds now, Chris.
It is. We don't know who the players are. They will be named later. So evidently it's more of a move by the Reds to clear some money off the payroll for next year, as much as anything else, especially when you're trading a major league player and not getting anybody recognizable back. So you know, you can kind of see the trend beginning to happen.
Here's Johnny. 1 out, 1 on. Pirates expecting a sacrifice. Harrison coming in from third. That's foul. And when you're where the Reds are right now, and you look at the offseason with those starters that will be free agents after next year, you know, the rumors start to flow and the speculation starts to run. And first thing you say is, who are the players that could bring you the most in terms of trade value, whether they be young players or filling needs that you have. To the stretch is Liriano. Santiago, short lead. Gets a bunt down. Oh, it's a dandy. They'll get the out at first, but a successful sacrifice from Cueto. Runner in scoring position, back to Billy Hamilton. And what it means, I mean, if you were to look at the Reds saying, okay, what could you get the most for? You know, you've got 3 starting pitchers that would be on that list, and Aroldis Chapman. But you trade Broxton, it's almost guaranteed that means Chapman's not going anywhere.
Well, you're probably right about that. I think Aroldis Chapman would be one of the last players I think the Reds would want to trade, unless they feel like they've got no chance of ever re-signing him and keeping him in Cincinnati. I think that's a long way off yet. You know, the whole idea of trading Broxton right now is not necessarily that you're throwing in the towel. It's just the fact that, you know, unless you trade him to a team before September the 1st, he wouldn't be eligible for the postseason. So after September 1st, his value goes way down. And that's why they did it today.
Big swing by Hamilton, sliced to the right side. Over is Davis. He's got it. And the Reds strand a runner in scoring position. To the bottom of 3, top of the order, with the Buccos leading 2-0. Serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Johnny Cueto in day games, and we talked about it often. Some pitchers just for some reason are better in day games. Today, somewhat of a exception, but Chris, look at those numbers in day games for Johnny Cueto.
Johnny Cueto likes to pitch. Number one, he likes to pitch in the day. It doesn't really matter day or night, but those day-night splits are very impressive for Johnny Cueto. He's already given up a couple of runs. So, Johnny, that's your Cueto, or that's your quota for the day. The Cueto quota.
Cueto quota. Like it. Patent that. Top of the order. Here's Josh. homered his first time up on the first pitch he saw of the ball game. He's now 5 for 11 against Cueto with a homer in his career. Lambo will follow, and then McCutchen. Center field hit pretty good, but Hamilton there, front of the warning track. And that's probably the first swing from Josh Harrison is a swing he's always had, Chris, but the difference this year, the triple he had down the right field line in that swing, he'll take that pitch away and go the other way with it.
Well, I think it's confidence also, George. He's always had good athletic ability, but he now realizes that he's just not getting a shot here and there where he has to make something happen in 4 at bats. He's going to play every day now, and that gives you a little bit more confidence to be the type of hitter that you can be, which is work the count a little bit, shoot the ball the other way when you have to, especially with 2 strikes. You notice that first pitch that Cueto threw him, though, after the home run was not really up and in his chin music, but it was inside. Then he went away and got kind of a lazy fly ball to center field. Johnny trying to reclaim that outer part of the plate.
Here's Andrew Lambo, recalled on Friday from Indy. He had a great year down there, 328, 11 homers, 42 knocked in, and about half a season. He was red hot as the season ended, homering 6 times in his last 8 AAA games. Indianapolis was in the playoff hunt until just this past week. They were eliminated, just like Louisville for the Reds, eliminated from the postseason. Lambo robbed of a hit on a nice play by Phillips. This one blooped to the left side. It will drop just past the outstretched efforts of Negron. It'll be a 2-base hit. What an effort by Christopher. He went a long way and just about got a glove on it.
I saw that ball coming off the bat, and then I checked where Ryan Ludwig was playing, and there's no way he's going to get close. But Christopher Negron closed on that a lot faster than I thought he would. Laying out, plays all out, and perfect placement by Lambo.
And you talk about Josh Harrison having confidence, and give credit to Clint Hurdle. He believed in him when a lot of people in the Pirate organization didn't, but he said this guy's going to be a contributor for us, and he has. And that's the same kind of feeling that Jay Bell and Brian Price have for Christopher Negron. They liked him a lot in spring training, but the numbers just weren't there to bring him north. But I think he's really making himself part of that 25-man roster for next year.
Not his numbers that he put up, but just the team numbers yeah. Didn't lay out right.
Here's McCutchen, who popped out first time up. In his career, McCutchen 269 and 4 homers against Cueto.
Just another really solid year for Andrew McCutchen, even though he's been going through a lot of different nicks and bruises. Been drilled a few times. He's been a pincushion, really, for the Pirates. Every time they throw at somebody, the other team throws at McCutchen.
The last 3 years, the Pirates have led the league in hit batsmen, and that definitely turns it around on your best hitter, whether you're Joey Votto or Jay Bruce or whatever. If you're McCutchen, you're going to get drilled. Overall, McCutchen 304 with runners in scoring position. Pirates have 5 hitters over 300 with runners in scoring position this year. So while their overall offensive numbers aren't spectacular, they've delivered when they've needed to.
I wasn't so sure that McCutchen's going to swing where the way he's swinging right now. He just looks like he's still a little bit hurting. But Cueto wasn't convinced of that. He threw him a 3-0 slider.
3-1.
Same pitch right there in a good spot.
Nick Leyva, the third base coach for the Buccos. He's flashing signs down to second with Lambo leading off the bag with 1 out. And Rick Sofield down at first for Clint Hurdle's crew. Former Red Jeff Branson, the hitting instructor here. Ray Searage, the pitching coach. veteran crew that's been together. Last year it was Jay Bell who was the hitting coach. Branson was the assistant. That's ripped but foul. Jay, of course, now the bench coach for Brian Price.
Jeff Branson still making his home in the Cincinnati area. I think he lives over in northern Kentucky in the Triple Crown area, and kids in school there. Loves it in Cincinnati.
One of our favorite people, huh, Chris?
No doubt about it.
And first-class guy and an outstanding baseball guy. That's a foul ball. You always had a feeling he'd be a coach, and once he became a coach, he got the feeling that, hey, I might like the idea of managing someday too. And he's got the demeanor, the ability. He's an outstanding hitting coach. There was nobody who was happier for him than Jay Bell when Jay left to come to Cincinnati. In fact, two of the men on the Red staff, Don Long and Jay Bell, have been hitting coaches in Pittsburgh. 3-2.
Hey, one thing, McCutchen looks better in this game than he did on Friday. He was really hurting, it looked like, and we happened to go into the clubhouse after the ball game. He's all wrapped up like a mummy, ice bags everywhere. But that last swing he took was about the best one I've seen him take so far in the series.
Try it again, 3-2. Got it. Strikeout number 2 for Cueto, number 201 for the season for Johnny.
Well, a fastball up and in, and McCutchen cannot resist. He swings through it, and that is our flamethrower of the day. Strikeout brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce.
By the way, we talked about the deal that sends Jonathan Broxton to Milwaukee for a couple of minor leaguers. Also on the wires, it appears that Adam Dunn, the former Red, has been traded from the White Sox to Anaheim. Dunner has told all of us, Chris, who have talked to him, that this probably is the end of his contractual agreement with Chicago, that he will probably retire at the end of the year. But he's going to be in a pennant race.
Well, he's a team owner now.
Yeah.
He bought an 18U team, an 18 and under. He sponsors an 18 and under team out of Houston, and it is some kind of a great all-star team with some of the best amateur baseball players he can put together in Texas, and takes them to all the big-time tournaments around. And I saw him last October in a showcase that they had down in Florida, and he was raving about some of the players that he had on his team.
And he's a movie mogul too.
That's right.
He's hanging around with the Hollywood people these days. 1 ball, 1 strike. Swing and a hard hit ball to short. Backhanded by Santiago. Ramon's throw right on the money. And that'll do it. A double, nothing to show for it. Reds down by a couple. Negron will lead it off. Season with MLB.com's head-to-head challenge app. You and your opponent each select 4 different players, and the person with the most points at the end of each game wins. Head-to-head challenge is free to play, so download it today. By the way, as you continue to tweet your photos using the hashtag #OhioFanPhoto, here's today's way to set up for your fan photo of the day. A little later on, we'll have your fan photo for you, brought to you by AT&T. Join us. Jesse, we thought you were going to send your fan photo of the day, the text and the picture that Katie sent to you from yesterday. How about that, Chris? You know, we've seen Katie since she was about yay high. She's now working for Coca-Cola. She's down, and she went to Paris, and she tweeted a big dish of escargot that she's having when she got to Paris to her dad.
Is that a new flavor that Coca-Cola's coming out with?
Escargot. She like those snails, Jess? She like it. You got to be pretty proud of her, Jesse. We are too. Here's Christopher. Negron struck out in the first. Liriano struck out all 3 in the first. The Reds got a walk to Santiago in the third. That's the only base runner they've had. When Liriano was at his best last year, He was ahead. It seemed like every time you looked up it was 1-2, 0-2. That's been a problem for him this year.
Well, you're right. And the other thing about it, George, is that last year when he won 16 games, he was only being paid $1 million for the entire year. So you work the quick math, and the Pirates got the benefit of having a pitcher win 16 games. You pay a little over $62,000 per win. This year with 3 wins and $6 million, the math is a lot easier, and the Pirates aren't getting near the return. That's a funny game of baseball for you.
He was the bright and shining star coming up in Minnesota until arm difficulties sidetracked him. And Kris, it took him all of 3 years to come back, didn't it?
Well, he was an all-star in 2006, and you're right. But, I mean, he's still only 30 years old. He's got plenty of good baseball left in him. And I think he really gets it now as far as how to pitch. And when he locates that fastball down and in, he loves to pitch there. That ball came back out over the plate. But he loves to throw a little two-seamer down and in, and then he follows it up with a slider that comes down, and it's going to hit you almost on your back foot. And that's part of the plate for him is his bread and butter.
Phillips grounds weakly back to the pitcher, 2 away, and here comes Frazier. Todd flied to right first time up. 51 pitches for Johnny through 3. The 37th pitch of the afternoon to be delivered by Liriano to Frazier. Reds off day tomorrow in Baltimore, and 3 against the O's. Pirates, there's a shot towards the left field corner. Frazier rounding first, looking for 2. He'll slam on the brakes and stay there. Pirates keep right on the grind, Kris. They have a day game tomorrow against the Cardinals in St. Louis.
Well, this time of year, there's not many day offs, and the Reds are going to get one in Baltimore. That was one of those off-speed pitches that Frazier was just able to elevate a little bit, just keep his hands back just enough. He's thinking about going to 2 on that, but Marte got that ball back in pronto.
The series in St. Louis, Garrett Cole against Lance Lynn tomorrow. Tuesday night, Jeff Locke against Adam Wainwright, and Wednesday, Edinson Volquez against Shelby Miller.
You know, that series in St. Louis, because of where they are in the standings, is really the series that we were hoping to see here against the Pirates this weekend. You know, they were all ready. They had all the stadium sold out 3 days in a row. Pirates were hanging right there. The only team that didn't cooperate was the Reds.
Liriano to the stretch, short lead for Frazier. Pena bounced to third first time up. Start of play today. The Pirates 2 games back of Milwaukee. The Cardinals 1 game back. Reds 8.5 back. And in the wild card, the Pirates are only 1 game back of St. Louis for the second wild card spot. Atlanta 1.5 games back. Miami 5.5 back, and the Reds 7.5 back. Big swing. 1-2. Either way, the Reds will be a factor in the month of September. They have 6 left against the Cardinals, 6 left against Milwaukee, and another series, the final series of the season against Pittsburgh. Frazier's going, fouled at the plate. Todd sitting on 19 stolen bases on the year. 1 away from that 2020 club. He's already got 23 homers. Aaron Boone, Chris Sabo, third baseman that are part of that 2020 club. Boone back in 2002 and Sabes in 1990. So he'd be in pretty good company when he gets it. And it's only been the last day or 2 that Kris, that he's starting to run a little better after the back trouble. And he was gimping around for a couple of days. Again, 1-2. Bounce back over the second base bag. Walker will tap the bag, and that'll do it. Reds get their first hit. Second base runner, they've stranded 2. Ike Davis leads it off.
Park in Pittsburgh. I'm Jim Day, and this is a special day in Louisville today. And one of the all-time fan favorites, Corky Miller. And this is not this is an unusual thing to have a number retired in the minor leagues, but that's exactly what's on tap at Louisville Slugger Field tonight in Louisville. It is Corky Miller night, the first uniform retirement by the franchise. His number 8 will be retired, all-time leader in games played with the Louisville Bats, 548, 99 doubles, also a franchise record. This is covering 10 seasons. So Corky Miller, he won't be done with baseball. You can expect that guy to be coaching, maybe even managing one day. But that stash, it will live forever.
Hey, JD, we all make our list of favorite players, not just on the field but off. And I know for you and for Kris and myself, too, there's a semi-shift by the Reds, and Ike Davis will punch it through on the left side for a base hit. He's 1 for 2. Corky's on your top 5 list, isn't he?
Well, he's up there. There's no question about it. And you're talking about a guy that had limited major league time. So a lot of the time we spent with him was always in spring training. And I was able to be on a caravan tour with him this past offseason. And he was certainly a superstar on that tour. And one thing that will always stick to me, and we've said this before, he's a put it in perspective guy. Every time he came to the major league club and he heard someone complain, he said, if you don't like it, play worse. Yep. Go down there and ride them buses.
And everybody that's been through there, Tucker Barnhart, of course, Devin Mesoraco. I mean, Rick Sweet helped them, you know, and the way things have evolved with the catching situation in the last 10 years. I mean, Corky's been there to help those young catchers get better.
A lot of times that is overlooked, but Corky was like having another coach on your ball club, and that's one reason why the Reds kept him around. Let's face it. I know that when he was with the Atlanta Braves, Bobby Cox just loved him to death down there. And I think the Reds are very fortunate to have had him in the organization for as long as he's been around. Hopefully he'll stay around for a lot longer.
He'll be a coach. He'll probably be up here at someday. I know Jim Riggleman down at Louisville now said he's leaned on him when he's been there the last couple of years to not just help catchers, but to help run a club. And we all know that players run teams. Managers and coaches can set a direction, but the clubhouse runs itself by peer pressure. Those are the good teams. Marte reached on an infield hit first time up, then was picked off. It was the first hit he's had against Cueto after going 0 for 14. No balls, 2 strikes for the Pirates left fielder. Short lead for Davis. 4, 6. Not in time. Now Marte's used his speed twice, once to beat out an infield hit and then that to erase a possible double play. But is Brandon something?
I'll tell you, I don't know how you could even try to turn this play any faster than he did. I mean, Brandon comes up here and it's like the ball just simply changes directions. He gets it quickly, backhands on the money to Santiago, who fires it over to first base, and Marte just too quick. You know, that backhanded play by Brandon, I mean, it looks slick. It's all, they're going to ask him to review it. I guess the Reds think that they may have still been able to complete that double play. But I mean, unless you're out here early, George, and when you're out here as early as anybody, Brandon is out there practicing that every day. I mean, it's not like you can sit at home, watch it on TV, and then go out and do it the next day without trying to practice it. I mean, this guy's taking a couple 100 ground balls every day.
I mean, he'll wear out the coaches hitting them ground balls. Fielding Culbreth will dial it up along with the first base umpire Manny Gonzalez back to New York.
Oh, I think they're going to ring him up. Take a look on the big board here at the ballpark. They just showed a very slow motion shot of it, and it looks like the Reds may get the benefit of a double play right here. Hard to tell there.
Yep.
There was another shot that the home team had that they showed. It looked like it came from the Reds dugout area.
He's out. Good job, Rob Coughlin, down in the visiting clubhouse. So the Reds will take the twin killing. The base runner erased. 2 away. It's a flip of the coin, and it's a quick reaction from the clubhouse out to the phone to Jay Bell, and then the decision. It looks like the heel hits, and from the other angle, the look that the first base umpire had was you didn't know whether that heel had hit the bat. The heel hits the ground first and then the bat. So the Reds get credit for the double play. Base runner erased, 2 away, and here's Mercer. They're joining us late. 3 big moments. Josh Harrison led off the first pitch he saw against Cueto, homer to make it 1-0. Jordy Mercer homer made it 2-0, and there's a base hit by Mercer. His second hit, he's 2 for 2. The Reds are scoreless with only 1 hit. That came from Todd Frazier, a single. And the other storyline of the day is that the Reds, just prior to the game, completed a trade with the Milwaukee Brewers, sending Jonathan Broxton to Milwaukee in return for a couple of minor leaguers. We're efforting, trying to get in touch with Reds Vice President and General Manager Walt Jocketty to try to get a view of that deal. We do not know who the players are as yet. And as a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, we'll look forward to our Miller Time moment coming up later in the broadcast. George Grant, Chris Welsh, Jim Day here at PNC Park. Great to have you with us down in the truck. Josh Hall, our producer, Brian Hunterman, our director. Lauren White dialing up some highlights and statistical analysis for us, along with Kevin Pennewitt. It's a breaking ball down and away. Kent Dreamweaver in charge of our pre and post game festivities back in Cincinnati, along with Jeff Pecora and Brian Giesenslaw. And it's been great all year to watch the great work they've done. Ron Millenor, Bob Overberg, Matt Coyner, keeping you up to date on not just Reds Live and Reds post game, but Reds Weekly as well. And Christopher, thanks for letting me step in this weekend. Congratulations to the Brenneman family, Dawn and her wedding this weekend. Marty and Tom are off, and I get to sit with you and enjoy it.
I enjoyed every minute of it, George. I wish it happened more often.
There's a pop-up. That's the inning. The Reds looking for some runs. When we return, they trail 2-0. Fourth annual star-studded telecast. Catch the fundraiser featuring music, performances, and stars from film, TV, and sports in a momentous and inspiring stand against cancer on September the 5th at 8 Eastern on Fox Sports 2. And talking with the people from Los Angeles, it looks like it's going to be just a spectacular show, Chris.
Looking forward to that.
For a great cause as well. And for the first time today, you can hear a little bit of applause around the ballpark. The sun has peeked through. Who would have thunk that a couple hours ago? It was pouring, and there's still rain around, but the sun's peeking through.
Yeah, who are all those predictors of doom? Like Jim Day saying, oh, we'll never get this in. My radar says it's going to rain all afternoon.
Get ready for a long day. Hey, JD.
He's always ready for a long day.
Well, you know, this has been a year, Chris, where you guys have sat through nearly one full day of rain delays.
I think this is what, the 21st or 22nd different rain delay, covering what, 17 or 18 hours total.
Here's Ludwig, line to center first time up, hit the ball right on the button. And that's been the story of especially his August, but really his whole year. He comes in at 246, 8 homers, 41 knocked in. He's had some hang with him swings that he hit right on the nose, but right at somebody. The Pirates will overshift against him, much the same as they do against Mesoraco. They don't overshift as much as they have in the last couple of years.
Well, this is actually the only team that I can remember anyway shifting against Ludwig. almost daring Ryan to try to hit the ball the other way. And if you do that, I mean, part of the threat of Ryan Ludwig is he's got some home run power. But if you open up the other side of the infield, you plan in the back of his mind, well, maybe I should just take a single to right. And then you take away that long ball threat.
So Ludwig takes the free pass, leadoff hitter on for the Reds. The Reds have had only 2 base runners, a walk to Santiago in the 3rd, a base hit by Frazier in the 4th. Here's Heisey, fly to center first time up. This one hit pretty good to left. Going back, looking up, going to be gone. Dial it up, number 6 for Kris Heisey. And with one swing, brand new ball game, we're tied at 2. Sweet swing, huh?
Well, he got an off-speed pitch on the very first offering from Francisco Liriano, and he looked like he waited back and just jumped all over. Look where that pitch location is. If Kris Heisey could put a ball on a tee, I think he'd put it right there.
Short, quick swing, home run number 6, runs batted in number 16 and 17. Kris, Pennsylvania native, gets the start in the 3rd game of the series with family and friends at the ballpark. So a sweet swing for him, and we're tied at 2. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Pirates. That's only the 2nd hit for the Reds. Here's Santiago, who walked first time up. And Chris, that's the tantalizer, isn't it? I mean, he'll come up with swings like that. He's got 3 pinch hit homers this year, 9 for his career. There are times that look, I remember our good friend Gene Bennett was always one who believed in him, saying if you put this kid out there for 140 games a year, he's going to put some numbers up, and that's what the Reds hope for.
Well, they hope for that, but the problem is that when he has had a chance to start on a regular basis, he's not put those kind of numbers up. So before you get 140 games out there, you've got to go out there and give yourself a chance for 20 or 40. And unfortunately, he seems to have been more productive off the bench. Some guys are just like that, but you know, I know if you ask Kris Heisey, do you want to be an everyday player? The answer is absolutely yes. Got to take advantage of it when it's given to you.
1 and 2 up high, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Rocket into center. That's going to drop in front of McCutchen for a base hit.
Now that'll set up perfectly another opportunity for Johnny Cueto to lay down one more sacrifice bunt. I want to send out a big birthday wish to a true unique individual. Dick Weiland is 85 years old today. He's a local lobbyist and philanthropist, business leader. He's been such a big part of the Reds community, so much so that he was honored a couple of years ago at the Dunham Complex in Western Hills Recreation Complex with Dick Weiland Field. He's raised millions of dollars for nonprofits all around the tri-state area. And Dick, we wish you a very happy birthday, number 85 here this afternoon.
And a very happy one, Richard. Liriano from the stretch, charging as Cueto shows bunt, gets it down, and another successful sacrifice from Johnny. For Cueto, that's his 9th sacrifice of the season. That gives him the team lead, one better than Homer Bailey. And we want to wish a happy 87th birthday, not today, but tomorrow, Chris. We're off the air tomorrow, no game tomorrow, to Gordon Flax and Richard Troxell. Richard Troxell of Gordon Flax, both celebrating their 87th birthdays tomorrow. Hope you enjoy your day.
All right, guys. Happy birthday.
We'll put you guys in charge of runs for Tuesday in Baltimore, all right?
How about just in charge of barbecue tomorrow?
You're going to get crab cakes in
that's
Baltimore, aren't you?
You better believe it.
They still have them in the press room there. That's the best crab cakes around. So 2 on for the Reds, trying to take the lead now after sacrifice number 9 from Cueto. Here's Billy. Hamilton struck out and popped up in foul territory. Walker trying to keep Santiago close at second. Steve Smith, third base coach for the Reds, watching the shortstop behind Santiago. Billy Hatcher over at first, hustling down the line. Hamilton, but they'll get him by a step. The runner goes to third. Hey, Labor Day sale coming your way. Save 50% again. MLB.com at-bat premium features for only $4.99. Follow every Reds game with live look-ins, replay reviews, live radio broadcast, MLB.tv, game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store. Sale ends soon, so visit Reds.com/mobile today. Best way to keep up with your baseball wherever you are. Here's Christopher Negron still trying to figure out this lefty. He struck out twice. Liriano breezed through the first four. Now it's a bump here in the fifth. A walk, a homer, a single, a sacrifice, and here's Negron trying to give the Reds the lead. Three and 0. 17 sellouts for the Pirates this year. They'll have number 18 of the season today as they pass the 2 million mark in this series. That's a breaking ball in there for a strike. Pirates will hit the road, head to St. Louis tomorrow, and after the Cardinals they'll play the Cubs for 3 and the Phillies for 4 before heading home for their final homestand. Swing and a miss. 3-2.
That is the same pitch that Liriano has thrown in Negron to get strikeouts each of the last 2 at bats. He threw him a 3-0 fastball, then a 3-0 slider, and I would imagine that slider is coming right back. Evidently, you just can't pick up the spin on that pitch.
Struck out twice on the slider. Does he come back with it again?
Changeup. He was halfway at the dugout.
Liriano not liking the call one bit. The Reds will take the free pass, and that'll get Phillips to the plate.
Well, they've got to make a decision on Liriano, too. The Pirates do. He'll be a free agent after this year, after having signed a 2-year deal last year and this year. But you wonder at age 30, having won 16 last year, down to 3-10 this year, he's still the best 3-10 pitcher you're going to find on the market.
Ray Searage taking a trek to the mound to settle him down a little bit, get a bit of a breather. And Chris, we've seen it in his career. Searage has become one of the most respected pitching coaches in the game. The reclamation projects he's presided over here are impressive.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, he's become kind of a guy you look to as a turnaround artist. Much in the way Dave Duncan did that in St. Louis for such a long time. You come over here and, for instance, what they've done with Edinson Volquez. They've got Volquez throwing more strikes. They've dropped his arm angle slightly, and he's got better sink on the ball than he's ever had before. He did the same type of thing with Charlie Morton when he came over here, and turned him into a really bona fide ground ball pitcher with some confidence. So, a lot of the credit these Pirates have with their pitching staff can be traced right back to Ray Searage.
Here's Brandon, struck out and bounced back to the pitcher. Runners at first and third, 2 away in the fifth. The Reds and Buccos tied. And the dirt kicks away. But Santiago will slam on the brakes. Going to second, though, will be Negron. So 2 out there for Phillips now. Good job by Stewart to somehow get his body in front of this one.
You talk about a wild one. I mean, that's a legitimate 55-footer there.
Brandon in his career 5 for 19, 263 against Liriano. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I got to figure that Brandon is going to get pitched to right here. You know, you got a base open and everything, but Frazier's on base. He hit a home run yesterday. It's hit a rocket line drive to left field earlier, and also a pretty good wood on a fly ball to right. So Brandon's probably the guy that they're going to come right after.
As sharp as he was through 4, he's searching for that release point here.
Nibbling. You know, when you have a left-handed pitcher with great arm action on that changeup right there, that is more effective than a right-handed pitcher's slider to a right-handed hitter, because you can't pick it up. The ball moves like a slider when Francisco Liriano throws it. You throw it down to that same spot, and there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do on it. Just when you start looking for it, he throws you a fastball.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 on. Another good block by Stewart. Stewart's always been solid defensively. Great catch and throw guy. Will smother anything in the dirt. Well respected by teammates. Full count, 3-2. Dribbled out in front of the plate. Here comes Liriano. Bounces up, and they'll get the out. So the Reds strand a pair. More importantly, they get a pair. Ludwig a walk. Heisey, boom, number 6 on the year, and we're tied at 2.
Tied at 2, PNC Park in Pittsburgh. I'm Jim Day. If you're just joining us, the news of the day: Jonathan Broxton, the relief pitcher for the Reds, traded to the Brewers. We've been awaiting a reaction from the Reds. I just got off the phone with general manager Walt Jocketty, and as many players are this time of season, Jonathan Broxton was put on waivers, but he was claimed by the Brewers. So that means if the Reds wanted to trade him, they needed to work out a deal with the Brewers, since this is the last day of August. To be eligible for the postseason, they needed to trade him today, and they're getting 2 players to be named later. Now, most of the time in players to be named later deals, it's incentive based. As far as how well Jonathan Broxton pitches for the Brewers would decide the quality of player that the Reds would get back. That is not the case in this one. They will get 2 players. They've already decided on 1. They have a list of several players. They're going to get their scouts together and decide on that second player. They will announce that in the coming days. There is no cash in this deal, meaning that the Brewers will pick up all of Jonathan Broxton's salary, and we're talking upwards of saving $11 million over the next season and a month. And I asked Walt Jocketty straight out, I said, is this more of the incentive of the players you're going to get, or shedding money to help the payroll? He said it's a combination of both. They do think the players they're going to get will help at the major league level over the next season. And also, he said, everyone knows our situation on signing pitchers going forward. So it was a combination, money and the players they're going to get.
JD, what did Walt allude to the fact that there were lengthy negotiations with a guy who he's closer with probably than any other general manager, Doug Melvin?
He did not mention that. We did talk about the relationship that he has with Doug Melvin, so it made it easier. But he said it was a very difficult decision for the Reds. Jonathan Broxton's a quality pitcher. He doesn't like the message that it might send that they're the rest of the season they still don't think they can get on a roll and contend. But he said this is a deal that we simply could not pass up, even though it's in the division. I know, it opens the eyes wherever. You're trading within the division. You're going to have to face Jonathan Broxton the rest of the season and next season, barring anything unforeseen. So I guess that would be the downside of it. But I'm sure because of that, perhaps the Reds got more quality players because of that fact.
Well, the Reds, of course, helped the Brewers because the Brewers feel like this year, the position that they're in, that they're a World Series contender. They've been atop the leaderboard in the National League Central nearly all year long. And they've got 3 pitchers on their pitching staff out of the bullpen that have already appeared in more than 60 games. And you've got Brandon Kinsler, who's been in 51. So Broxton will give them a well-needed right-handed power arm to set up their closer, Francisco Rodriguez.
JD, what's been the feeling? Have you had a chance to talk to anybody down around the dugout?
I have not, because the clubhouse was closed by the time that they made this deal or announced the deal. I did see Jonathan Broxton in the clubhouse this morning, and it was business as usual, and I'm assuming he had not been told at that point. So I have not gotten reaction from anyone.
Thanks, JD. Great job as usual. In between the raindrops, you're on the case, buddy. Here's Lambo. A ground out and a double. So the next part of the story, Kris, is waiting to see who those 2 players are. And I think, you know, in the time that you've spent in Arizona and the discussions you've had with people in the Reds organization, myself included, I think, you know, the Reds do have some premium young pitchers coming up through the organization, but there are other areas where the Reds have a need, and you would imagine that that's probably what Walt Jocketty targeted in this deal.
Well, they need players that are AAA or Major League ready. You know, because most of the prospects that the Reds have are down in the lower minor leagues. If the really good pitching prospects you're talking about are AA or below, and when you're pitching AA or below, that's what you are as a prospect. And until you get up here and actually prove that you can play in the major leagues. So, you know, the Reds obviously by, you know, the perfect example is by going out and buying the contract of Dylan Axelrod from the Chicago White Sox in order to put him into rotation for the end of the year. It gives you an indication of where the Reds are at the top of the food chain with their pitching. And I think the same way goes for everyday players. So, you know, they could use a boost in the minor leagues, and hopefully the guys they get will be good players that we'll see around for a long time.
One ball, 2 strikes to Andrew Lambo, the number 2 hitter. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Buccos, 2 runs, 3 hits for the Reds. Big swing, and Cueto's out of the inning. We're tied at 2. Reds go back to work. Now being brought to you by JTM Food Group. Let's create great dishes together. By Toyota. For over 30 Toyota offers, visit buyatoyota.com. And go for the Save on Wings Tuesdays at B-Dubs with specially priced wings all day. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Now from Pittsburgh, we remind you, get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game with the Reds live show presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing on your exclusive home for the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio. No game tomorrow. Back in action, the Reds against the Orioles on Tuesday. Matt Latos against Bud Norris. Reds live at 6:30. The game will follow. Matt will join the Reds in Baltimore. Had a couple of days home, and he and Dallas had a chance to enjoy their brand new baby Landon. Nothing like that first baby. Here's a line drive to right over as Lambo got it. Pretty good contact from Frazier, but a line drive out, 1 away.
It was good of the Reds to recognize the importance of, you know, paternity leave.
Yep.
Bring a new baby home, and then you go on a road trip the next day. So good to see that Matt and Dallas and baby Landon all probably hanging watching Reds games last couple of days.
I would imagine by the time he gets to Baltimore, we'll be looking forward to a full night's sleep. We've all been there, right?
Oh, yeah. Many times.
So it'll all fall on Dallas's shoulders when he hits the road. Special time. Your life changes forever, but in the very best way. And nothing like the joy that children bring to all of us. Here's Pena. Bounced out twice. Now, Chris, we talk about the deal that was enacted today, sending Jonathan Broxton to Milwaukee. What that means in the pecking order now probably is that Jumbo Diaz moves up to being the 8th inning guy. We'll see as early as today as that might unfold.
Well, the Reds are in another tight ball game. They've had 2 one-run games here. Of course, they're used to playing those, more than 50 of them. Each of these teams played one-run games. Pirates a little bit above 500 in that category. The Reds woeful in one-run games.
That's a foul ball.
Oh my goodness. Brian Price is looking down that third baseline thinking, well, I've got the same angle you do. And it looks like it was fair to me. Hands on hips.
Game of inches, and that's been the way it's gone for the Reds this year, hasn't it? An inch here, an inch there. Are you a believer that the one-run game story evens out from year to year? Because, I mean, there have been years where one team will win 3/4 of its game. Nice catch up in the second deck by a fan. And there are other years where a team will be woeful. I guess if it's your closer blowing game after game, that sends a message. But when that hasn't been the case for the Reds. It's been a lack of offense that's contributed to most of those one-run losses.
Well, I think that you're exactly right about that, George. I think over a period of, say, 10 years, it all evens out. But, you know, if you're a surprise team that all of a sudden is in the playoffs or in the playoff hunt, no one expected you to be there, go look back and look at what your record is in one-run games. You're probably doing really well. And if your team was expected to be there and you're not there, like the Reds, you would look back at your one-run games. I think the Reds pitching staff has kept them in one-run games where other teams, it wouldn't have been one run.
Yep. Down to short, Mercer. Pena's retired, 2 away. And the Reds fan cam is back this Friday at the Holy Grail. Get ready. It's your chance to answer Reds trivia, win great prizes, maybe be part of our Reds Live post-game show. Join us this Friday at 6 and be part of the fun. Schedule for the Reds, Cincinnati will move on to play the Orioles. In addition to that Tuesday game, Matt Latos against Bud Norris. Wednesday, it's Dylan Axelrod against Miguel Gonzalez. And then Thursday, it's Mike Leake against Chris Tillman. And no off day as the Reds will be home to take on the Mets and then the Cardinals. 3 against the Mets. Alfredo Simon against Bartolo Colon. Johnny Cueto against Dylan G. And Matt Latos against Zach Wheeler. And it'll be interesting if Bartolo will still be a Met by the time Friday comes around. There have been rumors that he's been the target of some teams heading into the final month. A veteran pitcher who's won 12 games this year. And then 4 big ones with the Redbirds. The 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. The Cardinals come to town for the final time. The Reds will then be on the road to Milwaukee, the Cubs, and the Cardinals. And then Milwaukee and Pittsburgh will end the season at Great American Ballpark. As you look at the Pirates' final month and that final week, Pittsburgh will end the season in Cincinnati. And if they're in the wild card hunt, which they probably should be, they've got 4 big games against the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta. Not an easy road for them. Big swing from Ludwig with line to center and walked. His walk to lead off the 5th, an important one because it was followed by Heisey's homer that tied the game at 2. Ariano's allowed the Reds only 3 hits. Single by Frazier, homer by Heisey, single by Santiago. Another full count to Ludwig, second straight at bat of that. Through on the right side against the shift. He bangs a base hit to right. And it's a 2-out hit. That'll bring Heisey back to the plate. His big swing in the 5th resulted in his 6th homer in a 2-2 game, Chris.
Well, you see the hole over here on the right, and that's exactly where Ludwig was able to get that, especially with 2 strikes. I think you change your attitude a little bit. Maybe instead of trying to bust it through the shift, you take what they give him, especially if you're going to get a changeup down and away. Ryan Ludwig, a guy whose contract is up this year. The Reds have an option on him next year, or they have a buyout clause. So it's another guy that, you know, heading into the last month of the season, you're looking as kind of a salary drive month of the year.
Heisey 1 for 2, fly ball to center, and that homer in the 5th. And Stewart will go out to talk to his left-hander. A year ago, he was so pitch efficient. So often he'd be in innings 7 and 8, somewhere around 80 pitches. This year, he's been more like 70 or 80 in the 5th or 6th inning. That's a dribbler to the right side. Liriano double clutches, and he just does get him by half a step. So the Reds will strand a runner. They've stranded 4. We're still tied at 2. McCutchen due up, and we return. Night at Great American Ballpark, Friday, September the 5th. Arrive early, enjoy activities in the Kroger Fan Zone. Be one of the first 20,000 fans to receive a Reds Irish necklace. Plus, stick around after the game for a spectacular fireworks show featuring an Irish theme, a soundtrack you'll remember forever. Thanks to Kroger and Home Team Products. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. It's the Welsh night.
You didn't mention any cold brew being poured that night, did you?
That'll be a bevy of Peru for you. It'll be green beer and green bagels early instead of March. Here's Andrew McCutchen against Cueto as we go to the 6th. That's a liner into left, a base hit. McCutchen's first hit against Cueto after popping out and striking out. Now in a 2-2 game, he's always a threat to run. He has been reluctant to run with the back and rib injuries, but in this situation, 6th inning tie game, you got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I would really be surprised actually if McCutchen's going to run. I mean, this is the first day we've seen him actually swinging a little more free and easy. And even in a tie ball game, I think that they're going to keep him at first base, allow Neil Walker to have a little bit of the right side of the infield open.
Walker, a walk and a ground out. Different players lead in different ways, and when this young man is healthy, he's one of the leaders on this club. A quiet leader, a quiet presence, a local player. Grew up in the Pittsburgh area. His dad, Tom, a veteran too, and a one-time close friend of Roberto Clemente. This one down to second. They'll get one, and it's bobbled, but they'll call him out. On the exchange, says the second base umpire, Fielding Culbreth, and let's see if the long walk to the field will come from Clint Hurdle.
McCutchen with a little bit of a whip slide right there. He was trying to catch the leg of Santiago coming across the bag. And I think the Reds got the benefit of a call right there that
Again, Chris, it's a simple play, but I'm amazed that they got the out the way McCutchen runs. I thought Phillips was just going to go to first.
I thought so too, and I think they're very fortunate that I don't believe that's a reviewable play, right?
And that was one of the ones that they reconfigured early in the year. Here's Ike Davis, struck out and singled. Double play still in order. They play him straight away, middle of the infield, pinch to second. Short lead for Walker. It's fouled off. Right now, first base belongs to Ike. You know, Pedro Alvarez had been the third baseman. With the errors that kept mounting up, they moved him to first. And now with an injured foot, Alvarez is on the sideline, and Davis and Gabby Sanchez manning first base. Swinging and a miss. 1-2. And in talking to Clint Hurdle, you asked, I mean, the question is, does this mean right now that Josh Harrison is your third baseman, or is Pedro still in the mix? He says, right now, Josh Harrison is my third baseman. And boy, he's put a vote in for himself this week. And that's a decision. I mean, the Pirates aren't worried about it now, but it's certainly going to be something that'll enter the discussion for the Pirates in the offseason. Where does the big bat of Pedro Alvarez fall in the future of the Buccos? 2 balls, 2 strikes. Now, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Aramis Ramirez when he came up as a Pirate. Cam Bonifay was one who always believed in him. There were people and fans here who were down on him because he struggled. He struck out a lot, made some errors, but Cam Bonifay told everybody who would listen, be patient. This guy's going to be a productive major leaguer, and he sure has put together a fine career.
He has.
Will the same thing happen to Pedro? 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Nearly a balk right there. Johnny turned and realized as he's in his motion to go to first base that you have to throw the ball. That doesn't mean you have to throw the ball there on a fly, but you just have to throw the ball.
If he holds the ball, it's a ball.
Right.
And of course, it was here that Johnny dropped the ball in the playoff game last year, and the Cueto chant started, so here it comes again.
I would say that's his B move.
Full count, 3-2. It's been the only thing that's gotten the Pirate fans into this game so far since the early home runs. Full count. We'll see what Clint Hurdle does with his runner on first. Walker, 3-2. They almost had him picked. He just stutter-stepped a bit, and it looked like the right foot slipped out from under him, but he managed to get back to the bag. Cueto's already picked off one, Starling Marte today. He's going. This one hit high in the air to right, but it's going to stay in the park. Heisey over. Under it. Back to first comes Walker. Boy, he just missed that one. Hit it a mile in the air, but Heisey flags it down, and there's 2 away. Here's Marte, reached on an infield hit, and then seemingly beat out a double play ground ball to second, but it was challenged by Brian Price, and the Reds won the challenge. He was called out at first. That completed the double play to start the 4th inning. In there for strike 1. Joining us late. Pirates took a 2-0 lead. First pitch of the game, bottom of 1. Josh Harrison homered, 1-0. and Jordy Mercer in the second after Marte reached on an infield hit and then was picked off. Mercer homer to make it 2-0. Meanwhile, the Reds were whitewashed through the first three. Frazier got the first hit in the fourth. Then in the fifth, a walk to Ludwig and a homer by Heisey tied the game at 2. And that's where we still are. Waves at that. Flip to first. Got it. So a leadoff hit, nothing to show for it. We're heading to the top of 7. Santiago, the birthday boy, will lead it off. A home run kind of day. Not often you see this. Johnny Cueto's first pitch. Josh Harrison's 13th home run. 1-0 Pittsburgh in the first. And with 1 out in the second, Jordy Mercer hits his 8th homer. The Buccos are celebrating, leading 2-0. And the Reds come back. Chris Heisey, after a walk to Ryan Ludwig to lead off the 5th homers, ties the game at 2. Heisey's 6th homer, 17 knocked in for the Pennsylvania native. And after the early home run difficulties, Johnny is buckled down. He's allowed 7 hits and 2 runs. The Reds have 4 hits and 2 runs of their own. He's due up second as Ramon Santiago will lead it off as we go to the 7th. 2 similar games, Chris. Yesterday it was Alfredo Simon giving up the 3-run home run to Walker in the first. Then he pitched great after that. Same story for Cueto thus far.
Well, you had to figure really coming into this ball game with the quality of the 2 pitchers out there. I could take that 3-10 record from Liriano and throw it right out the window, because this guy's pitched a lot better than that number has indicated. That it would be a low-scoring game, given the fact that Cueto is so good. The Reds are not really hitting on all cylinders at all offensively. That we'd be very much in a game like yesterday, a tight one.
1 ball, 1 strike. That's wide. 2-1.
Reds had 3 hits yesterday. They've got 4 today. A lot of times wins and losses, starters don't have a whole lot to do with, especially when you look at the run support your team gives you. So when you're averaging under 2.5 runs a game, you're not going to be able to nail down very many easy wins. So everything that Liriano has put on the board this year, those 3 have been well earned, and I'm sure he's walked away with a lot of no decisions of games that he's had an ultra quality start.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Ramon, who walked and singled, been on base twice. Towards short, hustling down the line, long throw from Mercer, and he gets it. This may be another challenge. Let's see. Awful close at first. Ryan Price to the edge of the steps, nodding his head as if to say, I think we should. He's looking in to get the word.
You know, what happens sometimes, I think, with these calls is that you may think that you have the right call and that you should go out and challenge it, but you also have found out that there may not be the right angle to prove that. So if you don't have enough video evidence to overturn it, the call will stand.
No challenge. It goes as a 6-3 put out. And here's Cueto, 2 sacrifices thus far today. His second, his 9th of the year. That's the team high among pitchers. Every time you know this day and age, Chris, you look at the. Did he get time?
Yeah.
Yes, he did. You look at the sacrifice numbers, and while teams may have a few, it's almost always pitchers. Cueto showing bunt, drops a foul, 1 and 2. And when you and I watched him do it, it was amazing. Jay Bell, the Reds bench coach, when he was the number 2 hitter for Jim Leland, it was amazing here in Pittsburgh. I mean, Moreno would get on a single, and it was automatic. I mean, Jay would end up with 21, 22, 23 sacrifices every year. And then you turn it over to, Bonds or Van Slyke or whatever, and it's a base hit, and it's a 1-0 lead in the first inning. Talk about automatic. He sure was with the sacrifice. Did he go? That's a strikeout for Liriano, 2 away.
Chris Stewart's going to kangaroo court. He just ran off the field thinking that was the 3rd out.
Brain cramp.
He's excited about that strikeout.
Look up. Oh. Your best kangaroo court. Best team you were on.
It's funny as long as it doesn't happen to you.
Yep. You walked off the mound thinking it was the 3rd out, huh?
Oh, I was wishing it was the 3rd out. Most of the time I was taken out before the 3rd out.
Two away. What's the best kangaroo court team you were part of?
You know, I got to say, a more veteran team.
Yeah.
And when I played with the Expos, it was a more veteran team. You get a bunch of young guys together, not really sure what to do in kangaroo court. I can tell you that the kangaroo courts that they go through in the Reds fantasy camp are as good as anywhere.
Oh, when you get Lee May going, forget it.
You're right.
It takes a big presence, too. You know, somebody like a Don Baylor, somebody like a Frank Robinson running a kangaroo court.
Well, don't call Lee May for character witness. He'll throw you right under the bus.
Whatever it takes.
I miss my coach. Hope you're doing all right, Lee.
Always thinking of you, Lee. What an addition every clubhouse he was part of, man. Every team needs a Lee May in the clubhouse. 2-2.
Could use a big bopper at the plate, too.
No kidding. And you got to be a big bopper to run kangaroo court, too. You can't be the timid guy. You got to be the presence, like Frank Robinson was. 3-2. Bounce back over second. Mercer. Quick flip. Well, the speedy Billy Hamilton gets on. Now let's see what the Reds can do with 2 outs in the 7th. The onus is on Billy to get to second for Negron here.
Well, Negron's simply going to give him a pitch to go on him, and Billy's got to try the best he can to just get a good jump early on. I mean, not wait very long, because you don't want to have Negron take a pitch for strike 1 and then have to put him in a 2-strike hole.
Sitting on 53 stolen bases. He was caught for the 20th time this season yesterday. His next stolen bases will tie the club record by Bob Bescher, 54, back in 1909, set by a rookie. And they'll flag him over there at least once.
Liriano will throw over a lot, and he doesn't pick a lot of guys off, but he does keep the running game under control, usually. This year, however, a little different story. 16 stolen bases, only 3 thrown out.
A little bit bigger lead for Billy, and they'll chase him back again. Now, the other part, you talked about Johnny Cueto really falling off and delivering the ball to first to avoid a balk. And the first baseman has to be in the vicinity of first base bag. If you're not, it can be called a balk as well. Davis playing in front of the bag with 2 outs and Negron at the plate.
Yeah, Davis wants to get as close to that hole over on this side of the infield right here to make sure Negron doesn't shoot one that way.
Billy not going, and he's trying to shoot one that way, and it's a swing and a miss, 0-1.
Well, we've mentioned it about Negron and his matchups today against Liriano. Liriano's really kept that slider down and in on him. And got a first pitch fastball snuck it right by him, so he's set up for that slider.
Billy not going. This one looped down the right field line towards the foul line, but it'll go foul. If that hits dirt, Hamilton scores. He was halfway to third when the ball hit the turf. Negron struck out twice, swinging his first 2 times up, and then on a 3-2 pitch walked in the 5th. Stewart flashes his sign, sets up, down and in. Seventh inning of a 2-2 ball game. Again, 2 outstanding efforts by 2 starting pitchers today. Francisco Liriano and Johnny Cueto. Been a pitching series so far. There goes Billy in the dirt. No throw. There is number 54. So Hamilton ties the rookie record of Bob Bescher. 54 stolen bases as a rookie. He's got 4 steps. Good idea by Stewart not to unload it. So now in scoring position is Billy. Just wide, 2-2. Center field hit pretty good, but it'll stay in the park. McCutchen back, edge of the warning track, got it. The Reds get an infield hit and a stolen base. Nothing to show for it on the board, and we stay tied 2-2. Coming up, it'll be the bottom of the order against Johnny Cueto, but we'll keep it here to honor America at PNC Park.
Join the Pirates and Major League Baseball as we honor
fan photo today. Here's today's fan photo of the game, brought to you by AT&T. That's a neat one. From back home at Great American Ballpark. Nice job. Thanks, Amy. Amy, we're putting you in charge of runs for the remainder of this game for the Reds, okay? Here's Johnny Cueto, Chris. Cueto going to work as we head to the bottom of 7th. Here's Jordy Mercer, who homered to make it 2-0 in the 2nd, and he popped out second time up. Star to play today. Milwaukee with a 1-game lead over the Cardinals. There's a liner in the left. Ludwig coming in, got it. 1 away. Milwaukee a game lead over St. Louis. Pittsburgh 2 back. The Reds 8.5 back. The Brewers will play San Francisco still to come later on, and Cardinals and Cubs are going at it, Chris.
They are right now. The Cubs are taking advantage of the Cardinals. John Lackey's given up 5 runs in 4+ innings, and Travis Wood has only given up 1. So the Cubs lead the Cardinals 5-1.
Here's Chris Stewart. If you're just joining us, Johnny Cueto gave up a home run to Josh Harrison on the first pitch of the game, and then a home run to Mercer. That's all he's allowed today. All told, 7 hits and 2 runs for Pittsburgh. Over Cueto's glove, here comes Brandon. 94 games and counting without an error for the Reds Gold Glove second baseman. That's the longest streak active. And don't forget, you can always have the latest information on the Reds right at your fingertips. Follow Kevin Goheen from FoxSportsOhio.com on Twitter at FSOhio_K Goheen for the latest news and stories on the Reds. Last trip in here at Pittsburgh, Chris. We want to send a hi, hello, and welcome to the real McCoy, Hal McCoy. We're sure he's back in the man cave watching today's ball game. Everyone in Pittsburgh says hi to the real McCoy. They miss him when he doesn't come to town here.
You're right.
Legendary writer and legendary person.
Especially Beef and Buff. They both miss him very much.
Amen. all the guys that used to be around, most of them are gone, but you go around the clubhouses and you go through the ballpark and it says Hal in town. Liriano's day is done. Morel will pinch hit. Expanded rosters will start tomorrow. They've already made moves here in Pittsburgh. There it is for Johnny. Cueto gets a zip, zip, zip seventh. Can the Reds come up with eighth inning magic? 2-2 ball game.
On this date in baseball history, 1990, a couple of Reds Hall of Famers made Major League Baseball history when Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. became the first father-son combo to play in the same game. And September of that year, what you're looking at, probably the most memorable moment of those two being on the same team, they hit back-to-back home runs. Father, son, and now we can say that both are Reds Hall of Famers, and Ken Griffey Jr., no question, will be a National Baseball Hall of Famer, and I'm assuming on the first ballot.
Guarantee, JD. Hey, JD, for those that are just joining us, we'll recap the big story off the field today, and that is that Jonathan Broxton was traded by the Reds to Milwaukee for 2 players to be named later. A brief those who weren't with us on your discussion and your talk with Reds general manager Walt Jocketty.
Well, Jonathan Broxton was put on waivers to perhaps trade him. He was claimed by the Milwaukee Brewers, so that if they wanted to trade him, they had to work out a deal with the Brewers. That deal was worked out on the last day in which a player could be traded and be eligible for the postseason. There's no cash involved in the deal, so the Brewers will pick up the remainder of his salary this year and next year, and perhaps a player buyout after 2015. The Reds have a list of players to be named later that they're choosing from. They've already chosen one who I assume is the key to the deal. They'll sit down with their scouts and talk about the other player that they are going to choose. As Phillips sends one into the gap, McCutchen runs it down. So trading him within the division, Walt Jocketty said that it was a deal that they just couldn't pass up. The 2 players he expects to contribute at the major league level next year.
Thanks, JD. Great job as always. You're the best. Outstanding. And by the way, don't get in any trouble down in Baltimore, all right? Stay away from the manatees and the seals at the aquarium.
Well, hopefully the only things that swim around are the ones that are going to be on my plate.
Go get them, buddy.
All right.
Great work as always by Jim Day. Line drive out from Phillips. Here's Frazier. Brandon today 0 for 4. He hit that one on the button. Frazier flied to right, single to right, line to right. All of those against the left-hander Liriano. Here's Jared Hughes, Chris.
Jared Hughes comes in, the right-hander. He has been up and down the last few years. He has been often used this year, but it's been about 5 or 6 days since he's been in a ball game. You know, the one extra thing to probably consider when you're talking about the trade of Jonathan Broxton is the fact that when the Reds signed him to a 3-year deal, they signed him to be the closer, and they paid him closer's money. So now he's being used as a setup guy for Aroldis Chapman, and makes a tremendous 1-2 punch at the end of the bullpen. The problem is he's kind of on the expensive side for someone who pitches you 7th and the 8th inning. So that's the other part of it, because they thought maybe when Broxton was signed to be the closer that Aroldis Chapman would move into the starting rotation. That never happened, so you essentially had 2 closers down there.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Frazier. And obviously at this time of the year you strive to win a division or to make it to the postseason, and then your next goal is to advance. And how do you advance? You know, 1990 was the greatest example for the Reds, with 3 lethal arms out of the bullpen. Bouncer down to third. Harrison, long throw. They'll get Frazier by a step. 2 away. So what Doug Melvin's trying to do is give himself a bullpen that'll go deep into the postseason.
Well, they've had some injuries to their bullpen. They're hoping to get some of them back, but evidently the word may not be as good as they thought on some of those pitchers. So that's why they bolster with a veteran like Jonathan Broxton. It's hopefully a good deal for both clubs.
The other deal that unfolded today, and there probably will be some more, is that Adam Dunn traded from the White Sox to Los Angeles in the Western Division of the American League. The Angels of Anaheim have a 4-game lead over Oakland starting play today. That gives them a big bat from the postseason for Mike Scioscia. Pena, 2-hopper down to second. Walker has it. So Hughes has a 1-2-3-8. To the bottom of 8 we go. Still tied at 2. Ticket offer Friday, September 5th through Sunday, September 7th. See your Redlegs battle the Mets at Great American Ballpark. Purchase 4 Reds tickets for only $48. Receive a $15 Hofbrau House voucher. That's 4 Reds tickets plus a $15 Hofbrau House voucher for only $48. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/4 for 48. Well, here we go to the bottom of 8 and top of the order due up facing Johnny Cueto. Cueto gave up a homer to Josh Harrison on the first pitch of the day. A homer to Jordy Mercer in the second. That's all he's allowed. We go to the bottom of 8, still tied at 2, Chris.
Well, he's been very efficient with his pitches. He's sitting at 91 right now for Johnny Cueto, 92. So he's looking for that win number 16 on the season, and I'm sure that Brian Price is going to give him as much leash as possible, although they do have Manny Parr up throwing in the bullpen. And it looks also like Sam McCure. Top of the order, so it doesn't get much easier right here for Johnny Cueto as he tries to finish it out.
There's Josh. He homered to make it 1-0 in the first. Flied to center in the third and bounced to second in the fifth. Overall now 13 homers, 46 knocked in. This one, there's a base hit in the left. Well, Harrison keeps doing what he's done this whole month. He's hit .342 for the month of August. And he puts the potential go-ahead run on base to lead off the 8th. Now what do you do with Lambo? Do you steal? Do you hit and run? Do you bunt?
Well, you don't steal. Charlie Marte already tried that. That was a bad idea. Johnny Cueto, so that you eliminate that from your list of options if you're managing the Pirates right here. You're looking for 1 run, really. You're after all in the bottom of the 8th inning. So you probably lay a bunt down right here.
Harrison, 17 stolen bases. He's been caught 6 times. Lambo just up from AAA. They'll look and see if he shows any inclination to bunt. He didn't.
Well, you got to figure he's bunting anyway, because then you leave a base open. You're probably going to end up walking McCutchen, and then it will fall on the shoulders of Neil Walker.
Negron, a couple of steps in front of the bag at third. Frazier holding the runner at first. Lambo robbed of a hit on a great play by Phillips in the first. Double to left in the third and struck out in the fifth. Cueto has 6 strikeouts to here. Johnny to the stretch. Runner not going. No bunt attempt there. Swing fouled off.
You know, with Johnny Cueto, the one thing you've always got to remember as the opposing manager is that this guy keeps the ball down. He gets a lot of ground balls and gets a lot of ground ball double plays. The Reds have already turned 1 on him on the day. I mean, he's getting the ground ball out at least every inning.
Lambo going into this year in 7 minor league seasons has 8 sacrifices in his minor league and major league career.
Well, when you're batting the number 2 spot, though, that should be on your resume.
Yep. So often these days it isn't, though, huh? Pirate fans resurrecting the Cueto chant here at PNC. Harrison not going, swing and a miss. 0-2. 37,591. Another sellout. All 3 games of the series sold out. The Pirates passed the 2 million mark in the series. Their 19th sellout of the season. Johnny to the stretch. 1-2. McCutchen due up next. Walker to follow. Runner not going. That's wide. Last time out in his 3-0 loss to the Cubs in that rain interrupted game. Cueto 96 pitches, but invariably he's 110 to 115 pitches a ball game. This will be his 99th of today. Go full 3-2.
Now they got ahead 0-2 without much of a problem at all. Both pitches fouled back and they were swung through. And now he's tried to reach back for that second gear, which we've seen so many times, but he's been high with a fastball 3 times in a row.
Hurdle is often put runners in motion. Does he put Harrison in motion here? 3-2, nobody out in the 8th. You run the risk of a strike him out, throw him out, double play. But a base hit, you've got first and third. Another decision for Hurdle with Harrison at first. Runner going. Fouled off.
Yeah, just a little bit bigger lead that time for Josh Harrison. I think he was gambling like Hurdle that Cueto, except for the first couple of throw overs, he has not thrown over twice in a row. Throws over once and goes to the plate. Throws over again, then goes to the plate.
Nick Leyva rolls through his signs from third over to Harrison at first. Lambo digs in. Try it again, 3-2. If you do get a strike him out, throw him out here, Chris, you can credit Cueto with maybe cheating a half a step from Harrison at first.
Good point.
Going again. Looped up. Phillips on the edge of the grass will haul it in, and Harrison will get back to first. So 1 away, and here comes McCutchen. Sawed off his lumber that time, huh?
I'm just really surprised that Clint Hurdle didn't have Lambo bunting. Maybe there's something that we don't know about Lambo and his inability to bunt or ability to bunt. But I mean, if you've seen Johnny Cueto as much as Clint Hurdle has, and you've seen him a bunch, you know this guy is as tough as nails with runners on late in the game.
Still anchored at first. Here's McCutchen. Pop up, strikeout, single. Big swing. Well, if the Pirates take the lead, Mark Melancon is up and loosening in the bullpen for Pittsburgh.
You get a fastball from Johnny Cueto in the second inning, it's like 92. You get it in the 8th inning, and it's 94, 95.
bloop to the right side in the seats, out of play. Well, Cueto ahead of Lambeau 0-2, now ahead of McCutchen 0-2. Well, he has been brilliant for the Reds all season long. A bona fide Cy Young candidate, who's carried the Reds on his back time and time again. Hit hard, pass Santiago in the left. Harrison will stop, he'll fall down, but get back to second. Well, pinched a step over for a possible double play. Santiago can't get to that ball. It hits the edge of the grass and heads into left.
Well, we'll take a look at the at-bat again. It went on an 0-2 pitch base hit by McCutchen. Our Mazda pitch by pitch, and Cueto's just keeping the heat on him. Going to throw fastball after fastball. The second one at 95. That one up. But McCutchen, after seeing a couple of those, began to time it and hit it sharply past the shortstop. Our Mazda pitch by pitch.
The difference of a step pinch closer to second for a possible DP, and that results in first and second and one out. And here's Walker. Walker walked, bounced out, and bounced into a fielder's choice.
You know, Johnny has not thrown anything but fastballs here ever since Harrison reached base with that base hit. He kept all fastballs on Lambeau, eventually popped him up. All fastballs on McCutchen, that first pitch to Walker fastball. So he needs something late in the game. He's reaching back into that fastball tank.
From the stretch is Cueto with one away. A rifle foul down the first base line.
A cutter that had Walker way out in front.
Walker 0 for 2 today. He's now 7 for 40. 170 against Cueto in his career. That's wide. 18 home runs on the season for Walker. He has always been a much better hitter from the left side than the right side. In fact, at one point in time, he was contemplating doing away with switch hitting. 17 of his 18 home runs have come from this side. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Dribble to the right side. Cueto has it. He'll tap the runner for the out, and the 2 runners will advance. So now second and third, but 2 outs. And here comes Ike Davis. Brian Price out. The left-hander Parra is loosened and warmed in the bullpen. Testing how much is left in the tank here.
Well,
is that
I
what
think
Brian's
so.
doing?
Well, we've seen this happen really almost exclusively with Johnny Cueto, where Brian will come back out and talk to him and put his pitching coach cap on rather than his managerial cap. He and Johnny, of course, developed a tremendous, very close relationship over the years that Brian was the pitching coach here. And he's very close with all the pitchers. But I think there's something special there with Cueto.
Ike today 1 for 3 against Cueto. Overall 4 for 20 for his career. Go ahead run at third is Harrison. The speed of McCutchen is out at second. 2 away. Davis struck out looking, single to left and fly to right. milked foul to the left side.
Well, with that hitch in your swing, I mean, he is just begging Johnny Cueto to bury that fastball up and in. That one may be a cutter right there to try to even get in there a little bit more.
Big deep breath for Cueto. He comes to the stretch. Jammed him. And for the third batter of the 4 he's faced, he's 0-2. Tough talk from Pena. And just to be safe, Chris, you got McCutchen out at second, a veteran. You want to make sure they're on the same page with the signs, and maybe these signs are even bogus. They know what they're going to throw here.
Whatever Johnny wants.
0-2. Wide, we're even at 2.
I just tried to overthrow that cutter just a little bit. I don't know if he wanted to backdoor that or get it right inside his hands.
Towards left, foul territory. Negron got it. He got it. Christopher Negron, an improbable and unbelievable catch, gets Cueto out of trouble. There's nobody happier than Cueto. That young man has been brilliant since coming on. With the bat, with the glove, he's given the Reds a spark. Let's see if the spark can get them to the plate. Another look at Negron's nifty catch. On Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. And if you're watching that tonight, guarantee you're going to see it. Say hi to the dancing dog, our John Morrell hot dog play of the game. Negron almost came up with a spectacular catch earlier today, but boy, does he bail Johnny out with this catch. What a dandy catch from Christopher Negron. He broke at the crack of the bat. I mean, someone else might have just figured it's a foul ball, forget it, but Cueto says thank you very much. The happy feet of Billy Hamilton and the happy feet of Christopher Negron have kept this one tied at 2. Here's Ryan Ludwig as we go to the 9th in a 2-2 game. The Pirates will overshift on Ludwig. He lined to center first time up, walked against the shift, and then singled to right against the shift on a 3-2 pitch in the 6th. Another nail nipper that the Reds are involved in, looking for some action here in the 9th. Ludwig, then Heisey, then Santiago, 6, 7, and 8. And then the pitcher spot due up, and our oldest Chapman has started to loosen in the bullpen. What Brian Price is hoping for is a run here and then turn it over to the big lefty. That's up high, 2 balls and 2 strikes. in his career. Ludwig 1 for 5 against Hughes. Heisey, Kris Heisey behind him is 3 for 5 against Hughes. He got him. So one away here in the ninth. Here comes Heisey, and again the biggest story off the field for those of you just joining us. The Reds announced today that Jonathan Broxton traded to Milwaukee for 2 players to be named later. Anything new on that, JD?
Well, I wanted to clarify one thing, George. There might have been some miscommunication on the way. The Reds getting 2 players to be named later. I said that the Reds expect them to contribute at the major league level next year. They expect these guys to contribute the next 2 to 3 years. I certainly don't want to put too much pressure on some young guys, but needless to say, they are Major League Baseball caliber players, and we hope to see the next couple seasons at GABP. Just wanted to clarify, and people don't get the wrong idea.
All right, JD. One away. Here's Heisey. Heisey's big swing is the equalizer in this one so far. Fly ball to center. Then after a walk to Ludwig in the 5th, his homer tied the game at 2. Last time up, he bounced back to the pitcher. All those at bats against Liriano. Here's the big button, Kris, our Nissan drive of the game.
Boy, he uncorked it and went a long, long way. You're needing it right there because the Reds have had a hard time mustering offense right after the walk to Ludwig. And he jumped on the first pitch that he saw.
1 ball, 1 strike. This one down the line. Going back, curving. It's going to be gone. A 2-home run game for Kris Heisey, and the Reds have taken the lead in the 9th. Well, with family and friends coming to the ballpark, he gave him something to cheer about today, Kris.
Boy, you're right about that, George. You know, he's from Pennsylvania, the other end of the state, yes, but hey, he gets it done right here against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Johnny Cueto likes it. It puts him on the winning side of the ledger if the Reds are able to hold the lead. The only question about this one was whether it was going to hook foul. And he kept that ball very straight as it went right down the line. Didn't hook very much at all. And goes into the stands, and that is a 1-run lead for this Reds ball club.
That'll put a smile on your face. Now 4 for 6 against Hughes in his career. And a big shot here. A 2-home run game for Kris Heisey. And the Reds lead at 3-2. And you know what that means out in the Reds bullpen. The big guy's getting ready. The only guy happier than Heisey was Cueto, huh? That's a great shot.
He's happier than Heisey, I can tell you that.
Speaking from the pitcher's
union.
Well,
it's just been a long time coming for Johnny Cueto to finally get, win number 16. He's been so close to so many games in which he really pitched well enough to win but didn't get the W.
Santiago walked, bounced out, and singled. Bouncer to the right side. Walker. 2 away. So with Johnny having a lead 3-2, he will be pinch hit for here in the 9th. Jack Hanahan will come in and pinch hit for him as Chapman gets loose in the bullpen. Jack has had his season sidetracked coming back from that shoulder injury. He's never been 100% and probably won't be until next year. And you mentioned those players that are really playing for next year right now, and he's one trying to show that he can still swing the bat, Kris. One ball, 1 strike.
One of the things you forget about Skip Schumacher is that he started the season on the disabled list with a separated shoulder. At that time, it didn't require surgery, but I mean, that's a pretty major injury to come back. And you miss some time and you come back and you play the same year. Those are the kind of nicks and bruises that a lot of the Reds have. That even though you don't have surgery, it probably takes you almost a year to recover from something like that.
2 balls, 1 strike. I've been amazed at watching Schumacher defensively after dislocating his shoulder to see some of the diving efforts he's made right on that shoulder. Other players might have shied away, but he hasn't.
He's done it twice, separated his shoulder, and both times diving for a ball. That's normally the way a baseball player will separate his glove arm. You know, when it happens, you're diving straight out goes your arm and you land on it, and that's when the injury occurs.
2-2 to Hanahan. Liner left. It is a fair ball into the corner. Rounding first, looking for 2. Here come he'll slam on the brakes and head back. What a job by Marte. Boy, he got there like a rocket and threw a strike to second. Wise decision by Hanahan.
That's a pretty good bit of hitting right there. That was a nasty sinker going down and away, and he just takes it right down the line. Marte did this earlier, where he got the ball back in very quickly. He's got a strong arm and threw it right on the money.
Out will come Hurdle, and that will be it for Hughes, with the top of the order Billy Hamilton due up. So while the pitching change takes place, it's time for our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. The Orioles first in the American League East. They got some power.
Well, you know they've got some power. It'll be a jammed house. It's a place that's good for offense, and they'll look at the Reds as a team that they should probably beat. So hopefully the Reds will be able to put a little wrench into their plans. They are 22 games over 500. The Orioles are in first place in the East. Bud Norris, remember him? He was a Houston Astro for a long time, and the Reds will know him pretty well. Matt Latos gets the mound, and Latos is throwing the ball very well. The new daddy, coming back from Dada Land, will pitch and take the mound on Tuesday.
Another W for Landon would be nice for Matt and Dallas. Mike Leake will pitch run for Jack Hanahan. So Leake is on at first as the Reds try to play add-on with Billy Hamilton coming to the plate. And here's the lefty, Chris.
Justin Wilson, saw him yesterday. 94-95. Gets it up there in a hurry with a whole lot of very little effort type of a delivery.
Three runs, 7 hits for the Reds, 2 runs, 9 hits for the Pirates. Billy today struck out, popped up, bounced out, reached on an infield hit and stolen base in the 7th, but was left stranded. Francisco Liriano went 7 innings, allowed 5 hits, 2 runs, struck out 5. Johnny Cueto went 8 innings, 9 hits, 2 runs, struck out 6. 113 pitches for Cueto. He'll turn it over to Chapman when we go to the bottom of 9. Up and in. 3-0. Takes a long look at Steve Smith. That smile was like, is he going to give me the green light? 3-0. Short lead for Lee. That's a strike. 5-4. Cubs lead the Cardinals 6th inning. Milwaukee leads the Giants 1-0 in the 2nd in San Francisco. Down the line and right, long run Lambeau. It will be a foul ball. Shaded that way, but still couldn't get to it. So full count, 3-2. Billy Hamilton is one who's looking forward to getting to Camden Yards. Chris, when you're a rookie and you play interleague play, you haven't had a chance to see the new ballpark. That's a pretty park. I know.
It's
one
a
of your
beautiful
favorites.
ballpark, and you know, Billy Hamilton just wants to get to the ballpark no matter where it is.
Yep.
I mean, this guy just loves the game of baseball. Always the first guy out here on the field.
3-2. Lambeau right there. He'll squeeze it. But the Reds, thanks to Kris Heisey's second homer of the game, take a 3-2 lead and give the ball to number 54. A big bomb from Heisey. Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Chevy. Visit your tri-state Chevy dealer today. And by Cincinnati Children's Hospital, who ranks third in the country on United States News and World Report's 2014 Best Children's Hospital. And don't forget, after every Reds game, Fox Sports Ohio breaks down the game, brings you the first interviews with Brian Price and all the players. Reds Live brought to you by Performance Kings Honda, and the guys will be on the case here. JD will be down in the locker room getting the story. We'll also, of course, talk to Kris Heisey as he reflects on 2 home runs today. If the Reds hold on to this one and bring home a W in another 1-run ball game. And Jeff Pecora and Brian Giesenslaw will put a capper on it back at the studios in Cincinnati. Jay Bruce will take over in right. That'll mean Heisey will move to left and Hamilton still the center fielder. So defensive replacements for the Reds, and here's the big guy, Chris.
Well, the big guy is Aroldis Chapman. He pitched in 4 games on the homestand. First time we've seen him in this series. The Reds, having lost the first 2 ball games by a run each, they are leading by a run here, so a thin margin for Aroldis.
He'll face Starling Marte. Marte hitting in the 6th spot in the order. 2 for 6 in his career against Chapman. Jordy Mercer is scheduled next, 0 for 5. And Chris Stewart probably will give way to a pinch hitter. Chapman hasn't pitched since Wednesday against the Cubs when he picked up a save in 1 inning and 1 hit of work and 2 strikeouts. Rhythmic chant by the fans here in Pittsburgh, trying to come back with a rally in the 9th. The Reds, on the other hand, trying to win a 1-run game, which has been so infrequent for them of late. Marte, infield hit, bounced into a double play and struck out all of those against Cueto. From the stretch, Chapman, strike 1. Strike 2. Your report card on Johnny Cueto today.
A+ all the way. Johnny Cueto shows you why he's the man just about every time he goes out there. Anytime you turn the ball over to Aroldis Chapman, you've done your job. As a starting pitcher, that is.
No balls, 2 strikes. 1-0-1 is wide. 1-2. Look at Marte. All you can do is say wow.
Well, the biggest mistake you make as a hitter is look at the radar gun.
Yep.
Of course, that looked pretty quick after an 86-mile-an-hour slider. But it's funny how things happen, George. You know, and we've seen it. That, you know, when Aroldis Chapman gives up hits, guys can turn on a fastball at 98, 99, and 100 miles an hour if you feed them nothing but a steady diet of those pitches. That's why it's important for him to come in there and mix them up a little bit.
Look out, that's wide. And now it's 2-2. Hanging in there, staying alive is Marte. Mercer on deck. Jordy homered against Cueto in the 2nd to give the Pirates then a 2-0 lead. Josh Harrison's homer in the 1st had given Pittsburgh a 1-0 lead. Got him. Strikeout number 1, out number 1 in the 9th. Well, with Broxton gone, a new configuration of the bullpen.
All of Aroldis Chapman's pitches are plus major league pitches on a scouting scale. And when he gets 2 of them over in the same at bat, you can pretty much kiss it goodbye.
Here's Mercer. His homer in the second was his 8th of the year. Russell Martin has moved into the on-deck circle in the 8th spot of the order for Chris Stewart. A lanky left-hander to the stretch. Here's the strike one. Trying to get him to go for it. Says the first base umpire, Manny Gonzalez. Way out in front, pulled a string on him, still 86, and it's 1-2. They call him the Cuban Missile. Some of his native countrymen call him El Latiga, the whip. That's a swing and a miss, and that's strikeout number 2. 2 up, 2 down, 2 punch outs. And here comes Russell Martin to pitch it for Stewart. Even if you don't throw it for a strike, Chris, if you throw the slider or the changeup at least once in an at-bat, you got to know it's there.
Well, it helps you get the hitters off your fastball anyway.
Here's Russell 0 for 3 at his matchups with Chapman.
He's thinking about one thing in this at-bat, I can guarantee you that.
Martin's had another solid year, both as a leader and a contributor on the field for this ball club. Numbers always impressive. The numbers don't tell the complete story of what Russell Martin means to this pitching staff and this club. Billy Hatcher waiting to congratulate Cueto. Here's a bloop. In comes Bruce. Got it. Well, defensively, Bruce comes in, and Johnny Cueto can put a big smile on his face. He gets number 60, Chris, and a big smile on the big guy from the left side.
Well, it's just nice not being swept, number one. That's a big thing for the Reds and how they feel about themselves. They may feel like they're really up against the wall trying to win a division or getting into the playoffs, but you still have pride about winning every ball game, especially when your main man is on the mound and he pitches the way he did today. Great job by the Reds. Brian Pena for leading the energy charge. Johnny Cueto on the mound. And man, oh man, Chris Heisey coming up big.
Well, Cueto passes the 200 strikeout mark, also gets a W. Chapman gets his 29th save. Heisey has another 2 home run game. And don't forget the great catch by Christopher Negron, Chris, that really got Cueto out of that big jam.
Not only got him out of a big jam, but it put a big grin on Johnny's face.
3 hours and 1 minute of baseball. Still a whole lot more to talk about. Coming up next, the postgame from PNC Park as the Reds win it 3-2.